Hello there,
Hello there.
and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean,
And I'm Josh.
and this is the Rebel Files, your one-stop shop for news, info, discussion.
Advertising, merchandise. We don't have merchandise yet. We should have merchandise.
We want to get to merchandise levels. That's really what we want to get to because I have.
Socks.
I
Everybody wants
have.
socks.
Everybody wants socks. I have a ton of ideas for shirts. This might just turn into a t-shirt company at some point in time.
That'll be the first time I ventured down that path.
But we talk Star Wars on this show. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop. And right now, there's zero going on Star Wars-wise.
It's lean.
There's
It's lean.
lean. There was some leak stuff we're going to talk about, but that's actually the leak stuff led us into a different conversation, and we got super sweaty on the the Star Wars speculation run, and so we're gonna get into this.
Yeah,
so,
it was one of those those nights you had back in the day where you're playing D&D and everything, and you're just kind of across the table, and all of a sudden it segues down this spiral into completely off-kilter conversation that has absolutely nothing to do with what you originally started with. Then you just
how did we get here? I don't know, but it's amazing.
we're at a trailer park somewhere in the desert doing conspiracy theories. It was bad.
I saw a UFO once.
It happens.
I was abducted by aliens. I was abducted once. So the conversation starter here is going to be, we got some leaked photos from the set and then some costume tests.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they are. They're costume tests. When they go through the movie, they kind of put everybody in a grid, and they kind of show what costumes could potentially look like, and they kind of select from there.
And they select, and they kind of get an idea if they look right together,
Yep.
and these aren't the final official, like what the outfits could be. They could change and stuff like that
we
once
know
we
of,
get in.
but they're so far they're matching pretty much what we've been hearing trickle out.
And a little bit of the stuff that we have seen has shown kind of the same kind of feel to everything. Dominic Monaghan is in there as a resistance officer of some kind. We get a white Rey, all in white. Her Jakku outfit, which was very dark towards the end of The Last Jedi, in this test is very white and very angel-y. Like very, and I won't say not.
I was gonna go Gandalf.
Right. That's okay.
But it's like that evolution.
Yeah.
She goes from her darker outfits, and now they're presenting her in kind
She
of
is now Rey the White.
Rey the White, right?
And we get Kylo's helmet rebuilt, and then we get some droids, some aliens.
We do get to see BB-8's little traffic cone buddy that they've been
Dio
saying,
or whatever.
Yeah, Dio that harasses him throughout the movie apparently, and
Yeah.
it looks like a traffic cone on a
It does.
unicycle.
It does look like a traffic, like it's laying on its side. But the big thing that came out of this, the other leaked photos we got was set photos, and it's at Pinewood in the UK, and they have a big fence around a forested area near a lake or a pond, depending on what your definition of size of a lake is. And it looks very densely forested with some snow. My first thought was Starkiller Base.
Has kind of that vibe to it.
It has that vibe to it, but we all know that that's not real.
Yeah.
Well,
If you threw the
not-
beach scene from Rogue One and Starkiller Base kind of into a blender, that's
kind of
what
what
it's marshy.
Yeah,
It's
that's
almost
a good way of
marsh-like.
putting it. And so those kind of make you think, are they going back to Starkiller Base? Are they going? Now they've talked about going to different planets this time, and they they have to go back to Jakku. I'm feeling like they have to go back to Jakku at some point in time.
You have to bookend it.
Yeah, they have to do. There's a bunch in the aftermath books about Palpatine using Jakku as a sanctuary for hiding Sith artifacts and stuff like that. So there might be something that goes along with that, and so I'm interested to see if that's actually where they'll end up going. But people have said Endor. The people going back to Endor at some point in time, and
there's a lot of scuttlebutt around Snoke and his involvement with Palpatine and all this, and nothing's really founded. It's all speculative at best. But there's there's some foundation for Jakku having a larger role in the grand scheme of things. You know,
she has to go back at some point in time.
She has to. I mean, there's unanswered questions, and I think when you kind of look at part of that hero's journey, there's kind of that return back to where you started from. So I do venture, I think you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see some form of a trip back in one capacity or another. I looked at the set photos, and it almost struck me as a pre-effects potential for Dagobah.
Yeah.
With some of the water and the way the trees were a little wispy, you know, without building a giant set that's going to give it away, but add the foundation. Now,
maybe she's on a quest for Jedi artifacts.
Yeah,
and she
you know,
goes looking for Yoda's lightsaber or something like that.
And it's highly possible. You know, we know Luke is going to make an appearance.
Yes.
Either in the form of a Force ghost or in some form of a flashback.
Right.
To some degree. So there may be some of that. I don't want to call it the Dagobah training montage, but you may see some flashbacks into that a little bit. It's possible. Not saying it's going to happen, but everything's really kind of open right now.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping for like a 3-year time jump from, or at least a year and a half. But I'd like to have 3 years to show I don't need this because this is going to be the last saga film. I don't need a 20 minutes of building up the resistance to get ready to go against the First Order. I wanted to kind of all be there and maybe just use some exposition and just explain how we rebuilt, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, there is the time jump, and I forget what the exact interval was. I know originally the talk was 3 years.
Yeah.
But 3 years is really kind of the primary trilogy jump, so to speak. I think Boyega, if I remember right, John Boyega let it slip what the time jump actually was, and I want to say it wasn't 3 years, but it was like a year and a half or something like that. Yeah. So there is a time jump. There's obviously time that has transpired. You know, his hair's grown out for the role. Obviously they're scouring. They're trying to find the resistance. You know, they left it with such a cliffhanger at the end of, well, they can't just be them.
Right.
They got to find
it's the recruits. 14 of them in the Millennium Falcon.
You know, so it's the 300. So, you know, they don't even have 300. So yeah, we know there's going to be a time jump in there. So the question is, how much of it is going to be exposition, you know, with what have they been doing over the course of this 3 years versus how much is they're just going to throw you right into it.
Yeah. Well, every Star Wars movie starts with something in space.
Right.
They're going to start in space at something, whatever. So are they flying to a new planet and that planet's the set? Or is it Rey with Chewie and the Porgs? Chewie and the Porgs has to be a band name somewhere. Them going to Dagobah to find Yoda's lightsaber because she's training, or she needs to rebuild a lightsaber. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that kind of go down that path.
Yeah, you know, are we going to see, like, you know, strange Rebels things where, you know, they delve a little bit into the mysticism, and, you know, maybe she's communing with past Jedi.
And that would be cool.
You know, that would be absolutely
we have the world between worlds, so I'm interested to kind of see how that kind of interconnects, and that's kind of where this conversation that we were having. We both, okay, I'll say it. I want to see Thrawn in Episode 9. And as soon as they hired Richard E. Grant, the internet went, oh my God, he's playing Thrawn. One of the photos they show in this costume test that leaked is a all-black First Order costume with a stand-in for Richard E. Grant. Now, it would make sense that he is playing a First Order officer. It would make complete sense, however...
There's a but.
There's a but.
Big one.
They have been doing a lot of work on building the Outer Rim and the Unknown Reaches and all of that stuff with Galaxy's Edge coming and the Thrawn books. We also had spoilers for the end of Rebels, if you haven't seen that yet. Thrawn and Ezra getting purgled into the Unknown Regions. The space whale showed up and grabbed the two of them and light speed somewhere to the Outer Reaches.
Cruiser.
Yeah.
A Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it was just like... so we have been talking about it, and we've been discussing that Richard E. Grant would be the best Thrawn right now. However, what does that mean time-wise? What is that for the timeline for Star Wars? Because Rebels happens before A New Hope, so now we're talking a 30-plus year gap, in the time.
Yeah, so at the time, I think that happened to Ezra, and I haven't checked the official timeline, but I want to say that was 2 or 3 years before A New Hope, which would put it at about anywhere from 33 to 36 years potentially
Something like
after.
that, yeah.
So Ezra would be probably in his late 40s.
Late 40s, yeah.
And Thrawn would be Chiss Ancient.
Yeah, we don't know because we don't know how old he was.
Right.
Because in the Thrawn books, the first Thrawn book, he is marooned on a planet, and the Empire finds him essentially and brings him, and then he works his way in. So we don't even know how old he is when he is found, but he is a member of the Chiss Ascendancy had been a prominent strategist for the Chiss Ascendancy, and we don't know how long the Chiss live. There's no, like, nothing I've been able to find says they live 500 years or 800 years or...
And I don't remember anything in the original Zahn books stating his age either. Right. I know that it takes a while, but I know that he was a relatively young Grand Admiral by comparison.
Yes.
So... I don't remember anything. So, and they haven't really given it. So I think it kind of leaves it wide open since the retcon as to what his age could be.
Right.
I'm with you on this. I mean, here's the funny thing about the leaked photos, and this is one of those you want to read between the line type of moments.
Right.
And one, you don't see Kerry Russell.
Right.
You don't see her. You don't see Matt Smith.
Right.
You see Lando.
Matt Smith also doesn't come up on the IMDb.
Correct.
Which we know he's been hired.
Yeah, so, and I think the trick with it is, are they going to just, we're going to hype it up and have him be, a voice somewhere behind the scenes? I think it'd be wasted. But you made a point right before this conversation about the uniform that they showed.
Right.
And the fact that this is a pre-production mock-up, essentially.
Right.
And you're right, you hit it right on the head, is that the uniform itself does not look First Order, it looks... Empire.
It looks very Empire.
Very Empire. And it's not white.
It's
but
not
that's
white.
Something that's easily done later. Just to keep the price. I think attitude-wise, here's the thing. I think Richard E. Grant would make a good Thrawn as far as his demeanor and the roles he's played. But I think Matt Smith has the looks. Either way you can go based on the animated version of the character.
Right.
He's a little leaner in this as he was in the Thrawn books. He was a little more chisel-chinned and a little broader.
Yeah.
And this he's leaner now, so Richard E. Grant could work. Matt Smith could work. And I know when Matt Smith was announced, we're all like, oh, he's going to be Thrawn.
See, when they said Richard E. Grant, the first thing I said was, he is Thrawn. He's at least Thrawn, or he is a Grand Admiral in the First Order.
He's gotta be.
He's got to be. Like, that's
the demeanor. Just
the way. Now, he's a great actor, and he can be comical. I mean, he's in frickin' Spice Girls. He can be comical. He can be serious. He can be, very deadpan, like he was in Doctor Who. But he can have this big range. But when you look at him, you see a very English imperial view of him, of his way, like you're saying, his demeanor and stuff. So when they announced him, I said Thrawn, or at least First Order Admiral or something like that. And then they announced Matt Smith kind of quietly, like Matt Smith got hired and like there was no big hobble-hoo or whatever. And then I went to go look for it on IMDb and he didn't show up on IMDb. He's in his late 30s, early 40s. He could play that kind of same... And he, to me, is Ezra.
I don't see it visually.
See, but that's the thing with Ezra. I mean, we got an Ezra sitting here.
Right.
Floppy, dark hair, physicalness, and he's been out in the outer reaches, so he's going to have a little bit more of a darker soul to himself and stuff when he's out there. So that whole concept is really kind of like started permeating in my head, and I'm just like, it would make sense that if the Resistance is out there looking for help and Rey's on this journey to find Jedi artifacts to help build the Jedi Order to go against Kylo and the Knights of Ren, it would make a lot of sense that she went to the outer reaches, went to the outer rim, or the outer reaches, outer rim, and stumbled upon something that led her to the opportunity to have Thrawn and Ezra jump in. And that opportunity is she runs into Ahsoka and Sabine on their journey trying to get Ezra back.
Yeah, I mean, we have this. It's still. Here's the thing. I feel like I'm having this giant, Mulder moment with the poster on my wall because I want to believe. I think in terms of speculation,
it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a good speculation. I think it has some foundation to it. In terms of being a plausible plot point.
Right.
God knows that I want to see that. I want to see the return of Ezra and Thrawn, and to have it kind of come swooping in the very last episode. Does it parlay well into the storyline as you've kind of connected,
right?
Or is it strictly fan service at that point? Which, now don't get me wrong, they kind of need some fan service in this episode.
They need fan service in this one. I'm not arguing that.
They need fan service in this episode. I need fan service in this episode.
We're getting Lando. We're getting fan service.
I'm so stoked with that. But he's got a cane in this one, apparently.
He's 85. Of course he has
Lando
a cane.
Pimp cane. What's up? It's got to be a Colt 45 joke somewhere in there. It has to be. Come on, J.J. Abrams, give me my Colt 45 joke. And looking at it visually, they've got a couple of renders of Ezra when they did the Black series, like we talked about last week, where it's not the animated styling, it's the real life styling.
Right.
And if you look at Matt Smith in how, since he played in Doctor Who, I want to say he's leaned out anymore because he was playing in the Queen.
The Crown.
The Crown, sorry.
Yeah.
I only watched like a season of it. He's playing The Crown. Phenomenal acting in there too. Right. And if you see him in that role, that would almost lend to the potential that he could play Thrawn too, because he's playing a very just almost
super
modeling,
focused. Yeah,
version. So it's possible. I can see kind of both ways. But then again, even if you look at the animation renders of Ezra and Thrawn, they're kind of similar,
right?
In a little bit.
Yes.
So you can.
He's got blue eyes.
See, I right there. If you look at that picture, now I'm putting the thing. If you look at that picture right there, and you paint him blue with the slick back hair, boom, Thrawn. Yeah. But Richard E. Grant would work for an older version of Thrawn, which we would have to have.
Which we'd have to have. Which is why I say you have Richard E. Grant be the older version of Thrawn, and Matt Smith the older version of.
Or Matt Smith is younger version, Richard E. Grant is older version. Don't know how, but
we have the world between worlds.
I know.
Here's the other thing too: is one of the other the conversations that were had, because both in Legends and in New Canon, Palpatine, Darth Sidious, clones himself, or at least does some kind of version of interactive AI. Very limited interactive AI within the Battlefront series, and then within the Aftermath books, there's a lot of stuff that happens in there where the Empire, the higher ups in the Empire, have specific orders from Palpatine that if he does die, they have to do this, this, and this, which brings in Jakku and all that kind of stuff. So, is there a possibility that, because we're closing out the saga, the Skywalker saga, is there a possibility that Richard E. Grant is playing Palpatine?
Nah. Nope.
As a clone version of Palpatine?
Don't see it.
Now, I don't see it either. And Ian McDiarmid is able, he's still a working actor. He's able to he was able to pull off a younger Palpatine in the prequels. So it would be, but having, okay, so that's not going to happen, but do we feel like we should get Palpatine in this?
Honestly, so here's my personal thing. I don't want Palpatine in it at all. I think his time is done. Now, again, to your point, we do know that he's had clones, but if you kind of go back to the old ways, he used the Geonosian cloning technology.
Right.
And we know the Geonosian cloning technology is going to grow a clone that is going to be the bloody spitting image of it. So any clone that he currently has out there still fundamentally existing in the world would really be old. Really be old.
Well, no, because if he cloned himself before Return of the Jedi.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That's where you start getting the time jumps, because he would have to have cloned himself.
He'd be a 30-year-old.
Prior to RO.
He'd be a 35-year-old, 40-year-old version of Palpatine. So he would look like Senator Palpatine pretty much at that point in time, maybe a little bit younger version of him. I don't want Palpatine in it either, but I want the threat of Palpatine to be in it.
Yeah, something that's looming, where the presence is still out there.
There's something bigger than Snoke. I think if you're at least an educated in Star Wars lore and stuff like that, you know that Snoke was a puppet for somebody else.
Right.
You can't have somebody to be able to pull off that level of Jedi power, not using the word Sith, but that level of dark side power as a Jedi or as a Force user. There has to have been somebody who put him in place to get him to do all this stuff with the First Order.
Well, there is, and you always have that looming presence of the greater evil kind of always out there. And I think if you're going to continue beyond the Skywalker saga within the same timeline, you have to lay the foundations for that here. Even if it's almost like you have your little Thanos moment, where it's just a little wink and a nod, but it sets up a foundation to move forward. I don't want Palpatine to be this big blaring character, because I do think that we would have seen Ian McDiarmid brought right back in. Just for the same reason, I don't think we're going to see Obi-Wan necessarily, because Ewan McGregor's still chomping at the bit.
However, I do think we will get a Jedi Anakin.
I think that's still...
with Hayden Christensen to kind of show up.
They did the filming.
They did the filming, but it would make sense if you're going to redeem Kylo, or at least try to redeem Kylo. You have to have a scene where the person he admired most as a child
smacks him upside the head.
Is Vader, and Vader doesn't exist anymore. Anakin was back before he died. And so have Anakin come back as Jedi Anakin and kind of like try to put Kylo in his place, and Kylo being the belligerent child at that point in time would tell him off, and then now Rey's got to kill him.
Yeah.
That would be the only way that I think you could really get Anakin, unless you get some like meeting of the minds at some point in time where you get Anakin and Yoda and Obi-Wan
and Luke
together and just say, okay, we've done everything we can. Let's put all of our energy behind Rey, and like all of our training and all of our Force energy behind Rey, and put her in the best position possible. So
it's funny you mentioned that. So there's two things kind of on what you said. So there's a couple of things where they talk about the fact that Hayden Christensen actually went and filmed scenes during Episode 8.
Right.
But it was never utilized. And part of it that I had kind of heard was because they couldn't quite figure out exactly where they wanted to insert that sequence and how they were going to visualize it. Like there had been rumors where he was going to appear kind of in all white, essentially as being a redeemed character. There were scenarios where they talked about him being kind of a split duality, where you saw half of Hayden Christensen's face, half of it was marred from the Mustafarian battle to show his duality. And they hadn't quite figured it out. So given Disney's kind of the way they're operating with like Marvel and everything else, like we know the Marvel trailer that's only going to be like within the first 15 minutes of the movie. Right. I think when we see a trailer, we're going to see some of that. So they're not leaking all their secrets out. It's not. There's going to be a big Empire punch in the face that we're going to have, and kind of going back to that. I completely derailed. I just lost track after the Hayden Christensen thing. It was the the energy, the Force Ghost.
Right.
There was some scuttle and there was some kind of whispers talking about how part of Luke's equation in this, and potentially maybe why they're holding Hayden Christensen's filming and imagery back, is where there is that Force siphon, where the actual ability to tap into energy and actually absorb it, a la Highlander, but so to speak. But they're able to project that into her. So I think where you're coming from with that, as whether or not it actually happens or not, is plausible. Kylo becomes powerful. Like he's just grown, because, harken back to the original with the Solo kids and everything else.
Well, and the thing with Kylo too is he talks about in Force Awakens when spoilers, he kills Solo. He knows at that point that he's gotten to the highest level of his abilities where he's at, and to go any further, he has to start doing things.
Right.
And he doesn't know if he can take that step. Now, we can have the argument that Han's the one who actually turns on the lightsaber himself, or that he's not really dead, or he's actually was a Force user and he knew the whole time. That's a whole different conversation down a different track, I want to believe. But
into the trailer.
But the idea of that unlocks a certain point within Kylo, which then manifests itself when he kills, spoiler, Snoke in the second one, and now he's completely unchecked, unhindered, uncontrollable.
Yep.
With if we still believe in the rule of two, there's another dark because they aren't really using Sith and Jedi. But if we believe in the rule of two, there has to be another dark side user out there. If there's not, that means all of the dark side power is going through Kylo. If all of dark side force is going that way, Rey has to have either somebody by her side, so she's training somebody to be force, to be with the Force and use lightsabers and all that stuff, or they have to funnel all of the light to her, which would explain the all-white outfit that she has in this test, in this costume test.
Yeah, I think it's a little fantasy trope plot point, but it fits right within the saga.
It fits within Star Wars.
It does. I don't think they're going to do necessarily the rule of two, because I think that was one of the things that Rian Johnson was really trying to kind of beat home. Was the destruction of the Jedi and the Sith ways. So, however, it still does go back to that whole. There's something else out there pushing him. I mean, we know going into this movie that he's been ruling over the First Order now as actually kind of a benevolent leader.
Yeah.
People apparently is the Order likes him.
Yeah.
But there's still that flip switch deeply rooted dark side, and we know he's a Force savant, kind of like Rey is.
Right.
Because they're two opposites of the coin. So yeah, how dark is he going to go? What's the evolution? And to your point with Anakin again, I really do think that they're probably going to take that footage that they filmed of him, work it somehow into that. And you're right. I think we may see some evolution of that.
And you also have the opportunity, too, because you have Luke saying to Kylo at the end of Force Awakens, where he says, "Be seen you around, kid."
Yeah, exactly.
So he's going to be haunting him, which is going to make him even crazier, which could be good or bad, depending on how you look at it in the scheme of things. A couple more things I wanted to talk about with the possibilities of this movie and the cast members. Dominic Monaghan is in it. In the test, he actually comes on. He has a Resistance officer's uniform, so he'll be something of an officer at some level. He'll probably have command of a ship for the big battle at the end or whatever. I don't expect him to have a huge role. There's the Carrie Fisher stuff, or the Carrie Russell stuff. The Carrie Fisher stuff. Let's talk about that for a second. We know that they're using archived footage from the previous two movies to integrate into this. We can have a whole discussion on what her role is going to be in this movie at a different time. Carrie Russell, though, and Matt Smith, back to that conversation, could the two of them be members of the Knights of Ren?
Possible. I
don't want Carrie Russell. I could do.
I don't want
Smith
either of them
being
to be
a bad
in the
guy,
Knights
but
of Ren,
I
because
want Carrie Russell to be.
I feel like the character, their talents, honestly, would be wasted for that. I mean, the Knights of Ren have been this trope that's been floating around since Episode 7. We have nothing on them, so for them to be considered Knights of Ren, there'd have to be some tremendous backstory about it. Like, they'd have to be prominent figures somehow. While Kylo Ren's off with the First Order, they're off running amok doing something else, making a name for themselves in the Outer Rim somewhere. I don't know, but I think it would be a waste. I mean, is the possibility there? Absolutely.
Right.
I'd be.
You don't put these two actors in helmeted costumes.
Right.
At this point, now with Adam Driver, it made sense because he was channeling his grandfather.
Right.
So having him in the helmet and the reveal of him taking his helmet off, and he's actually this kind of floppy-haired kid in Force Awakens made a ton of sense. But for this particular movie, you don't have these kind of characters and have these kind of actors be these kind of characters where you don't have to see their face. You don't hire you don't hire Kerry Russell as one of the first members of the new cast without her being a major character. Now, Dominic and Matt Smith both were hired late in the process. They had already kind of started filming, so I think that they have smaller roles.
Agreed.
But Richard E. Grant, again, was one of the first major hires. Like, him and Carrie were hired within the same week of each other, 3 weeks before filming started. So they were 2 weeks before filming started. So they were going to be major characters within the movie from jump.
Yeah. And here's kind of the funny thing about. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Because we were talking about that, and it kind of brought me to another thought about Richard E. Grant and the fact that the uniform is very Empire. And if he's not Thrawn, is he Snoke? And Snoke was part of the Empire and had grown over that 30 years and developed that persona. Through some reason or the downside, height issues. That can be fixed, though, via CGI.
Right.
So there are things there. But I thought about it, and I was like, well, how do you use a great character like that and then have an evolution, yet still answer the Snoke issue? Where was Snoke from and all that? And if he's a high-ranking officer in the Empire under Palpatine's direct command, like...
I'm trying to think of what the guy's name was in... There's a character in the Aftermath series who ends up being, like, Palpatine's secret right-hand guy.
We had this conversation. I don't remember the name either.
I don't remember his name off the top of my head. And he was the one that Palpatine would go to and say, we need to get this set up, we need to get this set up. And they set up the observatory on Jakku, which is where they kind of were doing a lot of their Sith practice, collecting of Sith artifacts and all kind of that stuff. That's back to the whole conversation we were talking about the set stuff. And I can't remember. So I wonder if, now, again, that's a 30-year gap, but, it's not out of the realm possibility that he's cryo-freeze. I mean, they introduced jet fuel and
well, you're dealing with time
the last
jumps.
one,
You've got World Between Worlds, and that could negate the whole Ezra Thrawn aging thing right there. Because they're like, wow, we've been stuck in a time warp for how long? So
they purgled them from whatever before New Hope to
and that's
they
the world
show up in
but it's
Jakku.
true. World Between Worlds introduced time travel into the Star Wars canon.
It's by definition, yes, it is time travel, but it's not really time travel
in the sense that we know it. It's more of a.
It became time travel as soon as Ezra pulled Ahsoka through.
That's what it became time travel.
That became time travel.
So
I guess my last question, because we could have this conversation for an hour and a half. There'll have to be whiskey involved, but I had a question, and where did it go? It was in there somewhere. I always love some of these random. Okay, so we know we're getting Lando. We know we got Chewie. We got the Millennium Falcon. Poe will be some kind of leader within the
Sith Bowl.
No, that was DJ. I will throw things at you. I love Poe. We know he's going to be probably general or whatever by the end of the movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So with all of that, is there a character that we have not seen show up that could still exist, that could be like the Han Solo swooping in to shoot out Vader so Luke can shoot the...
There's only going to be 3. Sabine, assumingly at this point, probably still has the ghost.
Right.
Ahsoka. Or Jason Syndulla.
It would be cool if Jason showed up. Like, Jason would be the right age. It would be cool. Oh. I'm doing math in my head.
Just remember, he's green. No, he wasn't.
He was green.
Was he green? I don't remember now.
Okay, hold on. Everybody talk amongst yourselves for a second.
By the way, we're going to take this moment to let you know that if these are spoilers to you and you're watching this show, what's your problem?
this is part of the fun of Star Wars, right? Is to sit down and have these super speculative conversations about the idea.
S-Y-N.
S-Y-N?
D-U-L-L-A. There it is.
Right there. I'm looking on the internet. This is the part of the fun of Star Wars itself, is to be able to have these deep philosophical questions about. He's got green hair.
Green hair, that was it.
Okay.
Ha-ha!
Okay.
So...
Matt Smith is Jason Syndulla.
Blue eyes?
Blue eyes.
Yep.
He's the right age. He'll be a Force user. To help Rey to go against the Knights of Ren.
Oh my God! So here's one. Pack your bag, kids. We're going to the conspiracy trailer. Okay, so Outer Rim, Ahsoka, and
Sabine.
Sabine, Ahsoka, and the Syndulas. They find Ezra, and Ezra trains Jason.
I actually want to read this. Actually, I would actually like to see that in a book.
True.
I would love to see that in a book, because then you could tell the story of Sabine and Ahsoka becoming close because of their love and appreciation for Ezra. Them showing up somewhere and finding out that Hera and Jason have been, working secretly for the rebellion and whatever, and the four of them stumble across something, and then we go in to do the whole. Yeah. But the problem with this theory for episode 9 is you have to explain to just the moviegoers who Sabine is. Why she's important. Why does she have a lightsaber? She's not a Jedi. We have to talk about Ahsoka. Who's Ahsoka? Why is she super awesome? Why does she have white lightsabers? Who is this guy with green hair with a what is the race of Hera?
The Twi'lek?
The Twi'leks. Yeah, thank you. Why does he have a Twi'lek mother, but he looks human? You can't explain that in what's going to be probably a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, and you have to solve Leia's passing.
They explained it in Rogue One.
You have to explain it. Okay, for the 5 of us who got the reference of Darksaber when she was listing off the
ghost was parked. They mentioned General Syndulla. Chopper comes out of the hangar. It's all there. You're not a fan if you didn't notice
I do want to actually see this, but the movie that we're writing for episode 9 is going to be 6.5 hours long.
Right, yeah, and it's primarily anchored around the Skywalkers. But your question, you did
ask
episode
9 2.5.
Yeah, the director's cut. The director's cut. So you asked straight out of the gate if there was a character I want to see. Yes, I want to see them somewhere at the tail end. I want to see that right in.
It would be cool to go,
or some reference, for Christ's sake.
It'd be cool if like Rey is surrounded by the Knights of Ren and Kylo, and a ship pops in, and it's Jason Syndulla and maybe Sabine and Ahsoka, but there's other Force Jedi type people with them, because they proved in Last Jedi that there's other Force users with Broom Kid.
Yeah.
And we know that Order 66 didn't actually get all of the Jedi, or the Force-sensitive Jedi trained.
Yeah.
And so we know that. So we have these references to different... and we also have that the Force is used by other species, other cultures, viewed a different way, used... the word Force isn't what they use, but they have a different thing. But like the Chiss use it as their navigation for their starships. They don't have starship navigation. They use the Force in the books. And the Chiss also, this is the other thing about the Chiss. The Thrawn books got a lot more information in them than you think. The Chiss, the younger you are, the stronger you are with the Force, and the older you get, the weaker it becomes. So you get to a certain age where you can't be a navigator on a ship anymore. And then you become, like a regular member of society. Thrawn was one of those. And that's part of the reason why he's able to do a lot of the stuff that he does, is because he has that ability to still tap into it, even if it's just a little tiny bit.
Right.
And he's able to recognize it in others. And so if you use Thrawn as that, I'm just going to close it up this way. If you use Thrawn as that Force character for the dark side, and Kylo goes to find, he's got this feeling of a different Force user, which is, again, something out of the Thrawn book. There's Ezra and Thrawn fighting on a mountaintop over, you shall not pass. And
did Ezra separate from Thrawn? Does Thrawn go on to create Snoke and Kylo Ren? Find out in a few months.
8 months.
Yeah, something like that.
10 months. 10 months. Fuck me.
Next on the Rebel Files, we go deeper into the conspiracy trailer. It's really a long way to go. I mean, if you think about it, we know so little about this movie at this stage of the game.
We know very little about the movie, which is fine. We're going to get a trailer, or at least something that we can have a full-on conversation about what the trailer is going to be. But the idea of we'll have that first bit of information there. But I'm okay with not knowing as soon as we go into the movie.
I'm kind of okay. I want enough of a tease out of the trailer.
We can pick it. We can pick.
The trailer is going to be, I'm going to be honest, the trailer is going to be spliced together in a way that gives us what we think might happen, and I think they're going to give it to us completely different way with the movie.
Yeah.
Or they're going to pull an Avengers.
Actually, the Force Awakens trailer explains everything exactly correctly.
Right.
You just didn't know it.
Right.
The Last Jedi explains everything in a different direction, and so you questioned now you're questioning everything. And you go back and watch the Last Jedi, they tell you everything that's going on, but it's so cryptic the way they do it.
Right.
Force Awakens is not cryptic. There's
no.
Here it is, and you're like, but that means this and this means that, and that. I'm confused. Last Jedi was very cryptic and everything, and this one I think is going to be super cryptic, and we may not get anything past the first 45 minutes.
Why might not?
Because if you're going to have Kerry Russell hidden, if you have Matt Smith hidden, if you're going to have all these different things hidden, and we know it's going to end in some big battle, big final space battle that's going to be led by Poe and probably Lando, and you have some big battle between Rey and Kylo, and probably Rey good light side versus
you're gonna have it
in the Knights of Ren. So you're gonna have that conversation. If you're gonna have that big old fight, you're not gonna see any of that in the trailer, and you better not, because. And if you take all the different things from like the different books and the comics and different things, you kind of put, where's the conspiracy theory guy from The Office? He's like, hold on with the strings everywhere. Right. I'll find it and put it in. But that's what we're at right now, because we don't have anything else to talk about. That's our thoughts on the possibilities of Ezra being in Episode 9, because it's going to happen. What did you guys think of our conversation? Like I said, we could do this a conversation for an hour and a half and go on some deep end, and then there's UFOs and
speculate below.
Speculate. Tell us in the comments. Tell us, A, do you think Ezra and Thrawn are going to be in it? Maybe Sabine and Ahsoka, that kind of thing, and tie up that part of the story. Tell us that. And B, do you think someone that we don't know is going to show up, i.e. Palpatine, Vader,
Zeb,
something like that? Tell us any of that stuff, and also just have some fun speculating. Just be nice. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us out on Patreon, and all of our social media stuff is in the description down below. Follow us on Facebook. We're almost to 500. And subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'm one with the Force.
And the Force is with me. Take care.